In our dreams, we can experience a wide range of visual and emotive content. We can experience the terror of a pack of wolves chasing us through a dark forest, or the bliss of flying through an uncharted zone of the galaxy. We can wake up from such dreams in highly emotional states or with a profound sense of mystery. For the most part, we end up shrugging off the experience of our dreams and go about our day. We never engage in the process of trying to unpack, decode, or understand the dream's deeper message. Dreams are the voice of our unconscious realms, reaching out to connect with us in order to guide us in our waking lives. Welcome to an introduction to dream interpretation, where we will begin the practical process of dream work to help you decode your own dreams.
Welcome to episode number 10 of The Dream Freaks. I'm Alejandro Salinas. I'm a dream guide, a yoga teacher, massage therapist in Chicago.
I'm Tree Carr. I'm an author, a dreaming guide, and a death doula in London.
And I'm Jenniffer ClarOscura, a dream guide in New York, and my focus is on dream interpretation and dream work. So I really love this episode.
Yeah, this is your whole jam.
It's, the main jam, yep.
And we're the bread.
And the butter.
Nah, you guys are just as jammy.
Jammy.
We're the crusty bread on either side.
So last week we started talking about dream journaling, though. And we're going to finish that up in a kind of a 2-part series for these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to talk about how to organize your dream journal that can make it more effective to interpret your dreams later on.
Yes.
So one really good thing to have for your dreams is a title. When you condense that dream into a little title, it gives you more direction and focus and helps summarize the main theme, and also including themes. And there's a really great book by this guy, Robert Gongloff, called Dream Exploration. And he's created a whole dream matrix of dream themes, where there's like 12 different categories that each dream can basically summarize. The basic ones are like an activity, like what question is the activity asking? How do you differentiate yourself from others? How do you express yourself or learn self-expression? How do you interact with others? How do you capitalize on your experience? And he also talks about motivations. So is your motivation in the dream based on thoughts, reason, adaptability, or will, determination, use of willpower, sensitivity, caring, or wisdom? Each of those, so you got a row and a column. And they make for some pretty interesting thing. And another thing he asks to do for themes, even in the day, is to ask where in your day you've received a blessing, a challenge, or an opportunity to serve. And that's a nice, end of the day reflection. I mean, the first question when we begin interpreting dreams that I have for myself and especially others when they come up to me is, well, what's going on in your life right now? What are you already thinking and feeling about? So themes play a major role in the interpretations.
Mm-hmm. And how it weaves, right? From waking to dream.
Yeah. Because it is, it's a continuous interplay between the two. The other thing you want to put down are your emotions, thoughts, and beliefs. So how you woke up feeling, how you felt in the dream and upon awakening. Any kind of things you were thinking in the dream, like, hey, this is kind of odd, or, oh, I really need to do this thing, or any beliefs, any maybe like assumptions that you had about the dream. And those can be revealing. And then upon awakening, just any, reflections that you have, you can go from there. And obviously a date.
Yeah, dates are very good.
But it's important. People forget, actually. I've forgotten a lot of times to date stuff, and I'm like, oh, man. I just put like 2008,
I think it's important to put the dates down, especially if you're a precognitive dreamer. The date will often confirm a lot of the precognitive content, especially if that dream, in fact, does come into fruition in your waking reality. Then you can look back and say, look, I had a dream of that car accident on April 5th. Happened. Yeah.
which
I did
actually,
one.
Tree, you
What?
did.
Oh, the Australian
The
one. Yeah.
Australian
God, yeah.
drought.
That was
Yeah.
pretty interesting, huh? Because I remember you
Wow.
posted, you wrote underneath it, Jenny. I remember that because I posted it on March 17th, 2019.
Yeah.
And it was like a little video. And you said, wow, Tree, what do you think that dream means? And I was like, I don't know, Jenny, I'm going to like incubate that one. I'm going to figure out what, yeah. But yeah, then all then the disasters happened in Australia. When I saw it in the news, I was drawn straight back to that dream again and looked it up, and I was like, oh, there we are. There's the post on Instagram on March 17th. Yeah, so dating
Wow.
the dream is important. Can encourage you, especially if you're a precognitive dreamer, to feel like you're not totally
sure.
bonkers.
Also, to see sometimes things are cyclical, and I find that I'm going through similar things I did in January of the same, of this year that I did in
Yeah.
January last year, and like that every month. I don't know why. I just feel like that's how I function. So for me, it's
You're getting more in tune with like your seasonal changes.
yeah, and it's good to see that rhythm that we have, I guess, right? That inner our body and mind and what goes on during certain seasons, or if maybe it's like a recurring theme in the season. So it's like
that's
seasonal
that's
recurring
great. And
theme.
I certainly do that for the moon cycles too. So I always will indicate. So I'll write the date, but if it's a full moon, I'll make a note that it was a full moon that night too, because like you, Jenny, I've been noticing kind of recurring cycles as well. I always have a lucid dream in or around the time of a full moon or an out of body experience. So I've noted this little rhythm that I've had with myself. So if you do,
It is the rhythm of the night. That night.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I definitely have weird dreams during menstrual period cycles.
Yes.
During the PMS stage, not the actual.
I've
During the
heard that
PMS,
before.
like premenstrual, I have the wildest, like most esoteric dreams, and I don't know why. It's like very magical.
That's so funny.
Alejandro.
I can concur, Jenny. I've had the same. Usually, just before I'm about to have my period, I have very violent dreams.
Bloody dreams.
There's usually blood involved, and I'm just like, well, I'm gonna probably, I'm gonna have my period soon. We're gonna be having a tsunami of blood soon.
The
So yeah, here we
Shining.
go. Sorry, that's really disgusting. Like The Shining, opening those elevator doors, like release the tsunami of blood.
Oh,
So where were we?
Keeping dates, marking the dates.
Alejandro sections.
Dates.
Yeah. So how do y'all work with starting to decode and start interpreting your dreams?
Yeah, this is really a very interesting one and often a very fun one, especially if as a conscious dreamer and you're undergoing your conscious dreaming practice. The thing is with symbols in dreaming, I really think that they're very personal, and everyone, like what a dog means to one person can mean something completely different to another person. As an example of a symbol, but also sometimes there are universal symbols that we all like have shared the same symbol, and we all can see it as a certain way. Like for example, the teeth falling out dream. We always talk about this as a reference, but that's kind of a universal dreaming experience. People
Strangely so, yes.
Yeah. So people of all cultures and all ages and throughout history and throughout time have all had that dream of a loose tooth or teeth falling out and being kind of freaked out. But I think when it comes to decoding your own symbolic content in your dreams, I think there's two ways that I like to go about it. As I like to see what's online in terms of dreaming dictionaries, just to kind of get my creative juices flowing in terms of getting in the mode of solving the mystery. But then I also listen to my own intuition on it as well. So I do write down my first impressions as to what I think that dog symbolized in the dream, and I'll write them all out. And then I'll go online and then I'll do a quick search on dog's dream symbol, or perhaps sometimes I look at the spirit animal aspect, like a more shamanic approach.
Like totems.
A totem, yeah. and then I'll read information on that, and then I'll find something in the middle that I feel I've settled with. But then I certainly will leave scope and room for the symbol to evolve, because sometimes a dream can be so shrouded in mystery, and you have a few things that you decode and write down, but then at a later time, the dream continues to unfold. So maybe like 2 months down the line, you watch a film and there's like a scene with a dog, and it's very interesting, and there's a meaning within the film that speaks to you, and then you somehow get the answer through a very different way in your waking life, through a synchronicity or through the unfolding of the dream. So I think it's something that with decoding your own dreams, it can be a process. So sometimes people want the answer as soon as they wake up, but sometimes
Right. What does it mean? What does a dream mean? Yeah, they get like desperate to give me my dream meaning.
It can take a few years for the meaning. I want to know. But also, I find also in the process of decoding dreams is to have a dreaming buddy, like a dream friend, and just say, hey, listen, I had this dream. What do you make of it? I often do that with Jenny, and she's great at helping me see a different vantage point of the dream.
Oh, yeah. Jenny is a dream interpretation queen.
Yes.
I just like to play. I play until because I can play for myself, but for the other person, you can only ask them a bunch of questions and make them try different things so that it clicks for them at some point for themselves.
And honestly, I've learned most of my interpretation stuff from you too. Because honestly, for me, lucid dreaming and that practice, there wasn't much importance for me placed on interpreting dreams so much as just like getting lucid, especially like Stephen LaBerge, the earlier stuff. I took it to just be like, okay, we're looking for the dream just to look out for like dream signs and not so much focus on interpreting them. And that was a different area that I never fully explored.
Yeah, they want recall so that they can lucid dream. Yeah, exactly. And this is very common, Alejandro, and it's nothing wrong with it, but it's very common for lucid dreamers to not make the connection with dream meaning because I think that dream meaning is just like dictionary stuff, which dream work, the way that we're approaching it, Tree and I and other people out there, is that it's not just a dream dictionary scenario. It's got a lot to do with our inner workings, and that's the fun part. We become little detectives of how our unconscious works.
Absolutely. And in so many ways, it's like The Hero's Journey, which is like it's a fantastic book by Joseph Campbell, but it's the concept that we are all kind of journeying through life through various themes, and we come across different architects too, if maybe some architects.
Architects, yeah. I love that.
Archetype.
Slip of the tongue.
That along the way that we can learn from and grow. Our souls can grow. So a big part of the process of decoding dreams and starting to do dream work is starting to get to the core of your own personal mythology. And this is it's almost a model of personal destiny within the dream itself. And this is really important when you're doing dream work, because you don't see the dreams as just junk data. That is an important and integral part of your consciousness exploration through being a human being. So you could start using some of the symbols within the dream content itself and embracing such symbols and have them become part of your personal mythology. So, for example, like going back to the symbol of a dog, and say that's a recurring theme, and then you develop this idea that, dogs for me represent unconditional love, and that's something that I really want to explore through my life, and how to unconditionally love or understand that. You can start using that, the dog symbol as just an example, as part of your personal mythology, as a totem or a symbol, as a mantra, you name it, however you want to integrate it. And so you can take it one step further and actually start doing things with that symbol. Like, if you're a painter, you can start, painting dogs, or, or if, you could get like a dog pendant, or, you name it, you can get creative with it. So this is an example of bringing in some of your dream content, symbology.
A little bit of dream bridging.
And bridging too.
Yeah, that, and also because it's a conversation of ourselves with ourselves, with our unconscious. And if we assign something like the dog we're giving that message to our subconscious, to the unconscious, that we are playing, that we are willing to view, like we're telling them what we expect from something. And you know what? The unconscious is listening. The subconscious is also the messenger to the unconscious. So I feel like it begins to like roll out all these dreams about that, exactly what Tree's saying.
So something I learned from y'all, especially Jennifer's, is wordplay. The wordplay has been so fun to look at in dreams when you're thinking about interpreting them.
Yeah.
The dream worlds are like so full of
Yeah,
like
I love
puns,
wordplay.
and it's so funny. I was telling one of my students about the podcast, and Jenniffer ClarOscura, Tree Carr, and one of my friends later tells me she had a dream about a car that had a tree growing out of it. I was like, oh my God, you literally dreamt of a tree car.
I know. Ale, it's so funny. Do you know how many people have like emailed me and told me that they had a dream with a tree and a car,
No.
and then later on in the dream, my name came up or something to do with me came up. So there is something that's really funny.
I
It's like almost
love
like
that.
it's like my name itself has become almost like dream symbols. Like
Yeah.
maybe that
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
That's funny because I've had people message me saying that, Ale. That's hilarious.
Tree car. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a very visual name. It's very
Yeah.
descriptive. Like you get a strong sense there.
If the subconscious actually listens the way that we think it does, which is it just listens to everything without judgment equally, tree car would be those words. It would out-register it how it hears it, which is literal and symbolic. So I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's also a good name for emojis. There is a tree in a car. I can write my name in a tree car with the emojis. But yeah, I love the wordplay stuff. And Jenny, you've been so great at that because I've never saw that angle before until I met you. And it's so good unpacking that. So Jenniffer, give us an example of a wordplay within the dream in a pun situation.
I have many, and the only one that comes to mind right now on the spot is when my friend came to me and she said that she had a dream that the rock was in front of her and her girlfriend, and that she couldn't get through to her girlfriend
Like
because the rock was there. Yeah, the rock, the actor.
Like the rock. Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes. And she didn't know what they would mean. And even though I asked her questions, she would like just answer random shit. And then suddenly I was walking past and I heard her say that my girlfriend hasn't proposed yet. I haven't received my ring yet and all these things. And I was like, oh shit, the rock is between them.
Oh, that's so good.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So then I realized when I heard that, I went up to her and I was like, I know exactly what that rock is. But at the same time, a rock is also an obstacle if you just grab the word rock. Yes. So there's definitely something that's not budging between them. And at the same time, it's the rock. So it kind of went few ways. But we were able to explore it from then on successfully.
That's a great example.
That's amazing.
I love that it showed up like The Rock, that big dude. What is he, a wrestler? No, he's an actor.
He looks like
and there's so many layers to any given double triple entendres happening.
Exactly. Yeah, it could have gone on and on because he is a huge masculine figure as well, and they were gay, the girls, so there could be also, who knows what kind of discussions could be going on between them. I don't know. I think one was more bisexual than the other. So I don't know to what extent this might go or if it even was relevant. I didn't want to go there. But a lot of I usually consider all things before but I'm sensitive to other people. So I'm like, I don't know anything about their life. I'm just going to keep it at, the rock.
So with the dream interpretation, when it comes to wordplay, what would you suggest, Jenniffer, when people have a few dream symbols? is there ways in which they can look at the symbol itself and just look at the word itself and see if there's any, obvious meaning?
Well, I feel like when you want to, look for the words, you need to hear the dream. So you could probably record the dream and then listen back non-judgmentally, not attached to it. I think it was Reese Jones that had a dream not long ago about a VR store or something that had a sign that said "No gaze" or something like that. Or only gaze, I think it
How was
was.
gaze spelled?
And it was GAYS. But when I heard it in my head, I heard gaze, GAZE. So, it was a VR store. He was at the window or something like that. So for me, it's like I already have a built-in double listening. I don't even know if it was relevant to his dream, but I heard gaze and gaze. So I guess you just train yourself to hear the word in multiple ways, but recording it and listening is a good way, or listening to somebody else's dream that you're not attached to. So your dream buddy, you could probably be more successful at just hearing things. But also another way of hearing is writing a summary of your dream. And hearing that story instead of all the names and the things that happened, it's just like a brief one sentence. And then usually that whole phrase will have a whole different storyline that you can then hear a different story from underneath the whole details that are included,
Wow. So sometimes it's so simple.
So I'd imagine even like if someone read your dream back to you, because then you kind of take your personal association of like the rock. So it's like, okay, of course I'm thinking this, but someone else reading that to me, that also gives you a further distance to just listen and think more creatively.
And the day after could probably be more successful because you're not as attached to the visions of that dream and you're listening to it with fresh ears the next day from someone else's lips. Yes.
I think a good exercise for this one would just be to like read a bunch of puns or look at like punny memes just to get your brain training. That's like brain training for the word.
It's true. It's so funny with puns because it does seem that some people have a disposition towards it than others. Like I call it the pun gene. It's like I have it pretty bad, and I'm like, I inherited it from my dad. It must be genetic. But I've also noticed like a lot of musicians are like terrible pun artists. Like so maybe there's something to do with like having a musical mind as well, where you're able to see multiple aspects of a word. And so maybe it's some kind of.
Well, yeah, lyrical musicians are lyrical. Lyrics are like poetry, and we think, it's true. We think a little bit more abstract or artistically. I don't know.
Yeah.
So speaking of like the rock and celebrities and things like that, what's your advice for people who dream of celebrities a lot? Are celebrities a symbol? Is there some decoding to do with a celebrity? Because a lot of people feel like they dream of celebrities.
Yeah, sometimes I dream of rock stars.
What do you think the symbols of these celebrities or rock stars are?
I think they can be a lot. I mean, I think it kind of depends on the rock star. Like dreaming of Bowie would be different than dreaming of, let's say, like Tool, two bands I've really loved. But, their music stands for and means something different to me. And as a musician, they're still like aspirational, but in different ways.
It also points to the era, right? Like when you were into that actor or musician. But sometimes that musician and actor in the dream evolves with you. So it's kind of like they become a little bit of an archetypal persona that keeps recurring in some way over and over again.
What if the celebrity dream symbol is of a celebrity that you don't have an affinity for? You're not even you don't even look up to them in any way. And you wake up and go, why on earth am I dreaming of the Kardashians? Like I don't even watch their shows or so.
I mean, that like leads to cultural mythologies.
Or also, who do you associate them with? For example, Jim Morrison came to me in 3 dreams, kind of like astral dreams, but I never liked the Doors or anything, but Dimitri does. He loves Jim Morrison. So I would have associated Jim Morrison to him in some way, like, is this about Dimitri in some way, or how, like, it's a way to look at Dimitri through Jim Morrison. Even though those dreams seemed a little bit more than that, I would have also gone that route in exploring.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Often when I have dreaming circles and there's a celebrity that pops up in someone's dream, and it's funny, it always evokes laughter. Everyone thinks it's quite funny when celebrities come up in dreams. I think because they're such public identities, and yet dreams are so private and intimate. So it does feel a little bit like, ooh. Sometimes for some reason people go, ooh. So often we try to unpack the archetype of the celebrity. And so often I'll ask the person, well, what is Robbie Williams? What does he mean to you? What does his personality type mean to you? And then they're able to...
Or what roles that actor has played.
Yeah.
I recently had a Oprah dream, and what I associated her with was very much in tune with what my dream work toward that dream was anyway, which was, it was about shadow work, and it was about women and power, and also where I stood within the dream and lucid dream community, which is, Oprah, she's kind of spiritual a little bit, and she's huge, in sort of new agey, but also she's also a broadcaster, television personality, which, I'm doing YouTube. So there was these little tiny bridges of why on earth Oprah would be in my dream. And it's more about what she does in life. Yeah.
I've also had Oprah show up in my dreams. And you talk about like shadow work, and it really was a very kind of shadow work, kind of like embracing the feminine aspect of myself. I was like taking off armor, about to go to war, and she's like, "Oh, sweetie, no." And I was just like, "Oh, Oprah," and I was just like, wow. When people tell you their dreams and like it seems so obvious to you, and like and you're just like kind of embarrassed. You're like, "Oh my, oh my."
Yeah.
You're revealing so much here, because it can be really revealing.
It can be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I think dream circles nonetheless, I think are really great. And I think that's another thing we can definitely add to helping you understand dreams, is getting the opinions from a bunch of other dreamers. In that format has been really helpful, for sure. And if you can't find a dream circle, you can always start one. Or
for my personal dream interpretation techniques always stem from, I use a huge part of my imagination for this. For me, the imagination is a portal into the unconscious, and I play with it a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard me, when you guys tell me a dream, the first thing I'll probably say is tell the dream from the perspective of, or if you were that dream character or that dream element, be that element. That for me is the Gestalt approach, which is you become the dream or the dream element or the dream character, and you don't interpret your dream, you're just being that
dream.
Inanimate object, or that fog, or that tornado, or that, lady that was there, or that table. But all these things, because everything in the dream is like of equal importance in this kind of therapy, I guess you could call it. And so, you really go through the dream in a different manner. You travel through the dream by taking it more a personal approach, where it is really you. And that for me has been an eye-opening way of approaching dream work. That for me falls more into dream work, even though dream interpretation is a part of dream work. For me, dream work is a lot more. And there's also, like Tree was mentioning archetypes and mythology. That's for me more like the Jungian kind of dream approach. Shadow work is also, I consider, a part of the Jungian inspired approach. I'm a big advocate of shadow work. I think shadow work is a huge part of why my inner work, and also light. But some people, which is the most commonly way, they mostly do dream work like Alfred Adler, which says that dreams are for problem solving. Basically, that's his theory, and that is also true for me. Like I believe all of the above. I try all of the above. But there's also Calvin Hall, which believed that the dreams reveal various conceptions, the conceptions of self, of others, conceptions of the world, and all of these are about the dream. What is your environment in the dream? Is it nurturing? Is it barren? Is it abundant in some way? The conception of conflict. How do we view our society? What's allowed, what's forbidden, what are our, I guess that's like a moral code of sorts, like an inner moral code. And also he was all about the metaphoric theory of dream symbolism. So speaking of metaphors and puns and all those things, it's a different way of eventually when you start exploring all these techniques and read all these books about all these techniques, you begin to read dreams differently because you have all this information. So a part of dream interpretation for me is not just the dream dictionary. The dream dictionary is just for inspiration when you're stumped, basically. Like Tree said, it gets the wheels rolling. But eventually, going through all of these guys and their what they've written about dream work is very important because you have more tools to view the dream in different ways, and it's very helpful.
And it reminds me a lot of, I think if people want to just practice a good way is to learn the tarot. A lot of what you were talking about is like questions I've heard asked of tarot cards when I'm taking a tarot class. Looking at the card, like what is the environment like? How many coins are there? What's the focus? And that'll help you start training, practicing, interpreting all different things, and then also applying it, to your life. This is what this means. What does this mean for me right now in this moment?
That's totally, I agree with the tarot bridge, which is why I love tarot, because it is a journey of dismantling one subject through various questions, which is exactly how I view dream work. It's a journey through the dream with different questions that you ask yourself about the different the different cards would probably be the different dream characters and elements surrounding the main card, which is always the root cause. And in tarot, that's usually first, but usually in the dream work, that's last, because the root cause begins to emerge when you explore the other cards, so to speak. But you know what? If you don't remember your dreams, it's not the end of the world, because if you like journaling, you should still journal, because you can write your waking life experiences as if they were a dream, as a practice.
Absolutely.
In dream writing. Yeah, and also you practice your memory through that as well. So viewing your day as mini dreams and interpreting them, applying all these concepts, all these interpretations that we've mentioned, all these styles, applying it to your waking dream can also bring you insights. Just like tarot, you can do it at any time of the day. I would also suggest tarot as fun if you want, because it is fun to journey through tarot, and you learn archetypal and symbolic imagery and language as well. So all these things can be applied to, if you don't dream, you can also have fun with what is symbolism and what is dream work.
Because basically, the tarot is, like dreams, you're looking at the realms of the unconscious and all the themes that are just below the surface sometimes. So they're very similar. I think Jung really loved working with tarot because of that, not just because of the unconscious themes, but also as you were saying, Jenniffer, the archetypes.
So we have a dream to interpret from one of our patrons, Nicole. It's titled The Bishop, and this is from January 11th of this year. She says, I'm in a mansion that has many rooms. I see twin girls and am sitting with them. Their dad comes in and says it's time for their naps. They leave and I start wandering the halls of the mansion. I light up a cigarette and take a deep inhale, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this cigarette. I exhale and smoke in each room as I enter. I'm not worried about the smoke or people knowing I'm smoking indoors, even though the thought comes to mind. I'm in a room now with an adult woman and child. The adult woman tells me the child is not well behaved. I tell the adult woman not to worry, to let the child be. I say something to the child, I can't remember what, and the child starts to behave. The woman is surprised I was able to do this. I'm now outside, and a bunch of us are planning a trip. I get behind a guy on a bike, and I'm holding onto a bar with my hands, like I have to travel behind him hanging. He starts to pedal, and I'm worried my hands will slip. But then I remember I've done this before, and once we get to where we are going, gravity works differently, and I won't slip. We finally arrive at this new place, and I'm sitting in an outside restaurant at a bar with the guy on the bike. And we see the bishop. We try to get away by going shopping in the little shops. I see about 4 rifles, older, brown, and think about buying one for protection, but don't. Then I see a bunch of closed black umbrellas, over 10 in a bushel shape. I'm indifferent to the umbrellas. We are then walking. The guy on the bike is with me, and we hear, "Watch out, it's going to explode." And all of a sudden, there is an explosion, and I see the glass from the store window explode and see some fire through the window. The guy on the bike crouches down to avoid glass hitting him. The bishop finds us and guides us to safety through a white door. I'm now in a room with a blonde. It's bright in this room. I look and see 3 light-colored adult cats, not white, but more of a dirty white, and can see their faces looking at me, at us. Then the blonde says, "It took me a while, but I finally have them in 3s," and then shows me 3 dark-colored kittens, not black, but dark, and I can't see their faces. They are sitting together side by side, their backs facing me. Then the dream ends. So she has some side notes. That one, she does see the word twins a lot in her waking life, sometimes 8 times during the course of a day from different sources. That's been happening since 2015. The first time it happened, the hairs on her body raised. Now she's accustomed to it. That she doesn't smoke, detests the taste and smell. She had this dream the night of January 10th, and last night she had a similar dream about her sister who was having a hard time with her son behaving. I took over and made him feel better behaved. The bishop is from a show on Netflix called Greenleaf. He's the head of Christian African American monarch. Good guy for the most part, or at least tries to be. And she says the blonde, she believes, is some form of a guide that shows often in her dreams. She says she gave us some background that she's been challenging, accepting light, or, doesn't like attention, eloped.
Yes.
Because she didn't want a big, wedding. And then she's been experiencing what she calls the dark night of the soul since she had a mystical experience in 2015.
Amazing dream. 7 scenes. Wow. So before beginning, I would advise you, Nicole, to create short titles for each scene, a mini title or a title for each mini scene. Once you title them, you'll be able to get a better idea of the journey from the beginning to the end of the dream. So like I mentioned before, there's many ways to describe a scene in different ways. So for example, without reiterating what you said, what I hear is in the cigarette scene, that you're enjoying doing something that you normally don't do. And you're filling up each space with your breath. You're exhaling, you're releasing, you're letting something go within each room. And for me, a mansion, rooms, they're all parts of your being that you have yet to explore, possibly integrate, because the smoke was being blown inside each room. Also, you weren't worried about what other people think. And I feel like that's a key word here. Possibly going with that, not worrying what other people think in your journey of what you expressed you're going through. Now, there's the other scene that stuck out to me, and I'll call it Woman and Child. And the woman is surprised that you are able to handle this child successfully. So I feel like that's in itself is quite a phrase. Then there's the guy on the bike. You're afraid to slip on your way up, but you remember you've done this before. And suddenly when you arrive to your destination, gravity works differently and you know you won't slip. And I feel like in this scene, you've emerged. You've come out the other side. And it makes sense because that's when the next scene begins, which is the scene of the new place. And at this new place, you're outside. And I feel like this might have to do with your journey outward, your public persona, so to speak. And you feel you might need protection, but you're indifferent to the black umbrellas. And for me, that's a little bit of a hint towards shadow work, to be indifferent towards something that is sitting there in a bunch of black umbrellas. You say about over 10. So I would probably think that depending on which topic you believe this dream is about, to try to understand that there's something that you might need to take a look at, open up, allow. Lastly, the other scene that stuck out to me was the blonde bright room. The things that really caught my attention about it was that you said it was dirty white, not white, dark, not black. And these for me are kind of also little signs of your light and shadow work that you mentioned, your work that you're working through, and that the cats are in threes. And for me, cats are also indifferent. This is how I would describe a cat, but how would you describe a cat? For me, a cat is indifferent, independent, doesn't care what people think. So it holds these qualities. But the number 3 in numerology is the creative self-expression, communication, social interaction, inspiring and encouraging others also to express themselves. So this might be where you need to explore if maybe you're not being clear with yourself, or allowing yourself to be one way completely or the other, always kind of staying in some kind of a middle limbo, so to speak. So I would encourage you to explore your self-expression in creative ways, maybe give yourself creative projects. I know you have a podcast, but maybe you want to take that a step further and try to get yourself out of some kind of a comfort zone and push the boundaries a little bit, be a little more flexible and elastic and creative in how you express what you express, be maybe more clear, or look at your light side in a different way, or your dark side as well. But yeah, what do you guys think?
So the smoking for me, the first thing I thought of was how a lot of shamans use tobacco in ceremonies. And houses are something I often dream about, of, either like a place of home or a place that has many things, places, nuances to maybe be discovered. And that smoking tobacco and exhaling it out felt very cleansing in a way. And especially she says she's enjoying it. So even though she doesn't actually like smoking, she says she is studying metaphysics and stuff, and how smoke is
And it said deep inhale, you know.
yeah, right. Breath and smoke is a symbol of like sending messages up to, the heavens, our guides, whatever that may be. And that she's not worried about it. And she's enjoying it. These twin girls, she's seeing a lot of twins. And she also says she's been questioning whether or not to have a kid. And there's these twins, there's the kittens, the child.
The child.
So there's so
And
many
the
of these
child.
references to like youth.
So I definitely feel like there's a few levels of inner work, which is why the mansion had many rooms, and that she's blowing smoke into every room, because I feel like there's all these rooms within her that she, who is the one smoking in each room, is kind of like, I don't know if you can smoke them out, you know what I mean? or at least be the unifying element within all these aspects within her that are trying to come together and go through this journey of showing her who is left behind, who is driving the vehicle, how can you move forward in this kind of waking reality scenario that she's going through with all of these dream characters that are representing something from deep within her. So my suggestion, as always, would be to Nicole to tell the dream from the perspective of these main characters and see what comes out of your unconscious. So do some dream work for yourself as well. Don't just take our word for it, and see what comes up.
Yeah. One thing that stood out for me in her dream was the scene in the dream where she's sitting outside of the restaurant at a bar with the guy on the bike. And that's when they see the bishop. And so then they start to try to get away. So obviously the bishop, that's a threat to her in some kind of way. So understanding who the bishop represents is a big clue. But the fact that when they were trying to get away, she saw 4 rifles, and she thought about buying one for protection. And then she saw a bushel and a bunch of umbrellas. So it made me start thinking about those objects, the rifles and the umbrellas. So the rifles, they definitely, they protect you in some kind of way. And so do umbrellas. Umbrellas protect you from the rain. So it made me think about her need for protection in various forms. One is an active form of protection, which is shooting a gun, which is self-defense and, maybe speaking one's mind and exerting someone's will. So it's a very active form of protection, whereas the umbrella is a very passive form of protection. But she felt indifferent to the umbrellas, which I found interesting because the passive form of protection, but she didn't go for the aggressive form of protection either. She thought about it, about buying a rifle, but then in the end she didn't.
Yeah.
So it made me think about, well, if she changed her mind on both accounts, and in the end she didn't opt for any protection from the bishop. So there's a lot of clues there.
Yeah.
So in the end she actually was like, I'm not going to fight this bishop, or I don't need protection.
In the background, she said that something personal that she's been going through is the decision to try and have a kid. And I can't help but think in more Freudian terms here about these 4 rifles and these umbrellas for protection, but that she doesn't need that. And then this like massive explosion that's like kind of shocking.
Protection.
Yeah.
Oh, this massive explosion. This is amazing.
And the bishop finds us and guides us through a white
guys,
door.
Do you know that old expression, flogging the bishop? Do you know what that means?
Sounds kinky.
It is a term for masturbation. when you flog the bishop.
Flog the bishop.
So
wow.
Masturbation, which results in ejaculation, which is an explosion of sorts.
Yeah, all this. But the cool thing about dream interpretation is that it can be about the same The same
Oh, for
scene
sure.
can be about a few things, you know? And so for her, it could be all of the above, you know, if she so chooses to go that route. For me, it's usually that way. It's always multidimensional in its message, but the white door can also be that light that she's talking about. It can also be the other side of this whole doubt that she's having about having children. So it's everything gets tied in together, because everything is tied in together in our lives.
And I also find numbers to be very interesting within dreams. And then there's a lot of clues to decode with numbers, and it's slightly challenging, I think, with numbers to try to figure out what they might mean. You can take the approach of numerology, and there's loads of information online if you want to know the meaning of a number, by simply just doing a Google search on the number with the word numerology. With the twin themes that that keep coming up, so that's the pairs, that's twos. Looking into the meaning of twos, possibly.
Could also be having twins.
Triplets.
Yeah, it could, or triplets. The number three. Number three is usually associated with the Trinity.
Yeah, father, son, or father, mother, child.
With getting back to the bishop, there is a bishop in the tarot as well, which is quite interesting. He's called the Hierophant.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also known as the bishop card, or the Pope. Sometimes he's called the Pope. I mean, but effectively, it's that that kind of role. That card stands for convention and tradition, keeping things very traditional and conventional, following the status quo, doing things the way you feel like you should be doing, living life off the peg, doing what everyone else is doing.
Which you know what brings me to when the bishop finds them and guides them to safety. Maybe safety is actually safe as comfort zone, like the bishop leads you back to where you feel safe through the white door versus the shadow. So all that could be playing in as well, like how that inclination to just call the whole thing off because it's too much. You go back to your conventional way of feeling safe. So you never know which way this is going. Is the bishop leading her through the white door, meaning the light, the power behind that, or depth, or is it back to comfort zone where you don't have to deal with all of this and somebody else is in power, so to speak? And in the end, this is the whole part of dream work, is that we don't have the final meaning to her dream. She will grab this dream with everything we've said and journey through it, through the different techniques that she will allow herself to explore. And we mentioned a few in this episode. So yeah, let us know after doing some of these techniques that we may have mentioned that click with you. Use your imagination, play with the dream, use different techniques, and let us know what you feel was the meaning behind your dream.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny, guys? Do you want to know something amazing? Seriously.
What? Yes.
Okay. Okay, I got to tell you. So we thought we were going to do the tarot first, right? And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll get my cards, do the tarot. And as I was going through cards, I pulled the card, right? And then Jenny was like, oh, well, maybe we should interpret the dream. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll just do that. And so as we were doing that and interpreting the dream, I'm sitting there holding the card that I had pulled, which is the Six of Cups. And you're not even going to believe it, but the Six of Cups is everything that we've been talking about with the theme of Nicole's dream. This is the card of childhood, the inner child. This is card, it's really big prompt to look at the connection with your inner self, becoming more happy and joyful, connecting to spontaneity and creativity. But not only that, guys, it also refers to actual children in your life. And sometimes it can suggest a pregnancy. And I'm not kidding. Some people even think twins, because you've got two little kids on this card. One of them's giving the other child a cup full of flowers.
Six of Cups.
But yeah, so as we were interpreting her dream, I was going, this is amazing. I actually pulled a card that is really linked in, especially the twins. That's crazy. Because there are a few tarot cards that indicate pregnancies.
Yeah, that's
The
insane.
Six of Cups is one of them. The Page of Cups is another. The Empress is another. So there's certain cards that can often be read into a pregnancy as a potential.
But as a person who had children, I got so serious about that decision and so serious about how to have a baby that I forgot that you just needed to have some fun and be innocent and free and young and connect with your partner in that way instead of focusing on the having children, And that's how I got pregnant. When I let go and I just became joyful about the whole thing once again. So it could also be like, what attitude are you taking? That man is walking away, meaning, the worrying and adult issues is walking away, and it's leaving the young children, which are playful and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely a reconnection to our inner child. And the even childlike activities, just being creative and playing and imagination and really free up. But yeah, I thought that was really cool.
I wonder how that will end up for her.
Well, I thought that was just phenomenal because I was just sitting here and just kept the card. I was like, okay, I'll read it later. And as we were talking, I was like, the themes of the dream are exactly what it says in the card, even down to the twins. So
wow.
So we should incorporate this into the.
We'll include it.
It's just too good. The synchronicities
That's
are
why
just
you pull
amazing.
the cards, Tree.
If it was my dream, I would dream incubate whichever part that I have a strong feeling toward in the dream. So if it's the twins, I would tell Nicole, our patron, to try to dream incubate from this dream the different parts that she feels might be of importance.
Yeah, amazing. And just another thing with the twins that kept jumping into my mind is the astrological sign of Gemini, which rules, which is twins, and maybe looking into a bit about, or if the star sign of Gemini resonates or means anything to Nicole in any kind of way. Yeah. An air sign as well, very mutable in quality. Maybe looking into that, or maybe reading into it from a astrological point of view.
Maybe the twins will be Gemini.
That's like having 4 kids.
Or the one child will be a Gemini. Right.
But communicate with your partner before deciding to have children.
There is no knowing.
Before whether or not you need protection.
Before the explosion.
And make sure the bishop has some protection. Make sure there's an umbrella on there.
And this is our politically incorrect dream interpretation.
Yeah, I think it's more accurate.
This is our freaky dream freaks interpretation, right?
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of The Dream Freaks. If you would like to support us, show us some love on any of our social media, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, subscribe. You can join us on Patreon, and you could submit a dream for interpretation, behind the scenes footage of us, and other fun stuff, merch. Who doesn't love merch? And with that, we wish you sweet dreams, pleasant sleep, stay lucid.